She thought no one would ever hear her story. But now you have. Subscribe to give voice to others like her. I never imagined that the man I married would become the villain in my own life story. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old, and what I'm about to tell you will show you that sometimes the universe has its own way of delivering justice. I was 8 months pregnant when my husband Marcus walked out on me. But what happened next proved that karma doesn't just exist in fairy tales. The morning everything changed started like any other Tuesday. I was making breakfast, my swollen belly making it hard to reach the stove, when Marcus came downstairs with a suitcase in his hand. I thought he was going on another business trip, but the look in his eyes told me something was terribly wrong. He couldn't even meet my gaze when he said the words that shattered my world. But what he told me next left me completely speechless. Marcus had been having an affair with Victoria Blackwood, the heiress to a pharmaceutical fortune. She was everything I wasn't: wealthy, sophisticated, and most importantly, not pregnant with his child. He said he was leaving me to start a new life with her, that she could give him opportunities I never could. The cruelty in his voice when he spoke about our unborn daughter still haunts me. I begged him to reconsider, reminded him of our 5 years together, of the promises we made at our wedding. But Marcus had already made his choice. He said Victoria was pregnant too, and that he wanted to be with a woman who could match his ambitions. The man I loved had become a stranger who saw me as nothing more than an obstacle to his dreams of wealth and status. What I discovered about their relationship would change everything I thought I knew. After Marcus left, I was devastated and alone. My savings were minimal, and I had no idea how I would manage as a single mother. Friends and family tried to support me, but the emotional pain was overwhelming. I spent days crying, wondering what I had done wrong, why I wasn't enough for the man who once promised to love me forever. 3 weeks after he left, I gave birth to Emma, our beautiful daughter. She had his eyes and my stubborn chin. I called Marcus to tell him about the birth, hoping that seeing his child might change his heart. He answered from what sounded like a party, music and laughter in the background. When I told him Emma had arrived, he simply said congratulations and hung up. I never expected what would happen when Emma was just 2 months old. My neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, knocked on my door one morning, holding a newspaper with a strange expression on her face. The headline made my blood run cold. Pharmaceutical heiress Victoria Blackwood dies in tragic accident. The article explained that Victoria had died in a car crash while driving under the influence. She had been 3 months pregnant, but the real shock came when I read the details of her will. Victoria had left everything to Marcus, but there was a catch that no one, including Marcus, had seen coming. Her father, Richard Blackwood, had inserted a clause in Victoria's trust fund years earlier. If she died before producing a legitimate heir, her entire fortune would go to charity, not to any romantic partner. Marcus had given up everything for a woman whose money he could never actually inherit. The irony was devastating, but what happened next made me realize that justice was just beginning. Within days of Victoria's death, Marcus was calling me, constantly begging to come home. He claimed he had made a terrible mistake, that he realized he loved me and wanted to be a father to Emma, but his desperation was transparent. He had lost his meal ticket and suddenly remembered he had a family. The man who had abandoned his pregnant wife was now pleading to return to the life he had thrown away. I could hear the panic in his voice during those calls. He had quit his job to live off Victoria's wealth, sold our shared assets to impress her, and burned bridges with his own family when they disapproved of his choices. Now he was essentially homeless and penniless, while I was slowly rebuilding my life with Emma. What I told him during that final phone call still gives me chills. I had spent months learning to be strong without him, discovering parts of myself I never knew existed. My sister had helped me start a small online business, and I was finally finding my footing as a single mother. Emma was thriving, and for the first time since Marcus left, I felt like I could actually be happy again. When Marcus showed up at my door 6 months later, he looked like a completely different person. His expensive clothes were gone, replaced by wrinkled shirts and worn jeans. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He begged me to let him see Emma, to give him another chance to be the husband and father he should have been. But I had learned something important during our time. Apart, the man who could abandon his pregnant wife once could do it again. I told Marcus that he could have supervised visits with Emma, but that our marriage was over. I had filed for divorce months earlier, and I was moving forward with my life. He broke down crying on my doorstep, saying he had lost everything that mattered to him. The irony wasn't lost on me that he only realized what mattered after losing his chance at easy money. The legal battle that followed revealed just how far Marcus had fallen from grace. During our divorce proceedings, it came out that Marcus owed significant debts from his time with Victoria. He had used credit cards and loans to maintain the lifestyle she expected, assuming he would inherit her fortune. Now creditors were coming after him, and he had no way to pay. He was forced to declare bankruptcy, losing even the few possessions he had left. Meanwhile, my small business was growing, and I was building a stable life for Emma and myself. The contrast between our situations was stark. Marcus, who had chased wealth and status, had ended up with nothing, while I, who had been abandoned and left with nothing, was slowly building something real and lasting. What happened at Emma's first birthday party showed me that real justice isn't always dramatic. I threw a small party for Emma in our tiny apartment, surrounded by friends and family who had supported us through the hardest year of my life. Marcus wasn't invited, but he called during the party, asking if he could at least hear Emma laugh. Over the phone, the sadness in his voice was genuine, but it was too late for regrets. As I watched Emma take her first steps that day, surrounded by people who truly loved her, I realized that Marcus's betrayal had actually freed me from a life with someone who could never truly commit. His pursuit of wealth had cost him the real treasures: a loving family, genuine relationships, and self-respect. The final twist in this story came on Emma's second birthday, and it was something none of us could have predicted. I received a call from a lawyer representing Richard Blackwood, Victoria's father. It turned out that Victoria had established a small trust fund for any children born from her relationships, meant to support their education and welfare. Since Marcus had told Victoria that Emma was his daughter, Emma was entitled to receive support from this fund. The amount wasn't life-changing, but it was enough to secure Emma's future education and give us financial stability I never expected. The woman who had stolen my husband had unknowingly provided for my daughter's future. Marcus, meanwhile, was still struggling with bankruptcy and had no legal claim to any of this money since it was designated specifically for Emma's care. When I told Marcus about Emma's trust fund during one of his scheduled visits, the look on his face was indescribable. He realized that the child he had abandoned was now better provided for than he was, thanks to the very woman he had left us. For his pursuit of Victoria's wealth had ultimately benefited the family he had discarded while leaving him with nothing. The cosmic justice of the situation wasn't lost on either of us. Today, Emma is 3 years old, happy and healthy, surrounded by people who chose to love her unconditionally. Marcus sees her twice a month under supervision, and while I can see that he genuinely loves her, he has to live with the consequences of his choices every day. He gave up the chance to raise his daughter for the promise of easy money, and that opportunity will never come again. As I watch Emma play in our small but cozy home, I'm grateful for the journey that brought us here. Marcus's betrayal was devastating, but it led me to discover strength I never knew I had and showed me what really matters in life. The man who thought he was trading up for a better life ended up losing everything that actually had value, while the woman he left behind built something beautiful from the ashes of their broken marriage. Sometimes justice doesn't come with dramatic courtroom scenes or public humiliation. Sometimes it's as simple as watching the person who hurt you realize what they've lost, while you've found the strength to build something better without them. Marcus got exactly what he deserved, and Emma and I got exactly what we needed: freedom from someone who could never truly appreciate what he had.